Well, hi, Robyn. I'm really looking forward to getting a chance to hear your leadership journey. Thank you so much for saying yes to this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Really important topics. So thanks for having me.
What were some of the things that you feel like set you and your team up for success to respond so quickly in this time of change?
I think for us, we're always learning, we're always innovating. And so it really is about a culture of change, and we hire accordingly. So we're living our values, we're creative. And so when we hire, we're pretty clear about that we're great at solving problems as a team, but we are an agile company. And so just being clear about who we are and how things kind of go.
Talk to me about your experience as a leader, both in experimenting yourself and also helping your team experiment.
I think it's showing up and being authentic. So saying, okay, we do not have clarity on a lot of things, but let's focus on what we do know and where we want to get to. And then we're going to work together, the teamwork piece, each step of the way. So again, that communication and alignment and that frequent contact. I think also inviting healthy conflict. If we need diversity on our teams. And so if you and I are always saying the same things, then one of us is not needed, right? There's redundancy. So really inviting the leadership team that it's okay to fail forward a little bit, that when we make these decisions, we're going to make sure we're safe, but we may, make a mistake or two, and that's okay, because that's going to keep us moving forward.
So I'm curious to know from your perspective, if you had a story that illustrated like that point of that point of experiencing loss, either as somebody who went through the change or leading the change.
I think I agree with you that in order for new things to come in, we need to say goodbye to others because we can't do everything. And so I think for us, it's been, again, really grounding to say, okay, who are we? What is our mission? What is our vision? So that we can focus. And I think in terms of loss, I think resistance to change is also fatigue. So sometimes we're just like, yeah, that'd be great, but I'm exhausted or I'm not okay. So really having those conversations and focusing on wellness and acknowledging that so that we can be our healthiest, most creative, awesome selves, so we can keep moving forward together.
What does that look like in practice for you, either personally as a leader? Because I think that's one of the things when we're navigating, especially right now, when you're navigating a business trying to survive, right? Or trying to make sure that you come out of this on the other side, that can be incredibly draining for you. So how do you navigate your fatigue when leading change?
Well, healthy, like sleep hygiene and healthy habits are important. I think too, for me, I have a very big vision. And sometimes you just got to say, okay, that's awesome, but let's focus on, am I safe right now? Mm-hmm. Am I safe this hour? What am I going to do next hour, next hour? So sometimes, whether it's crisis or, just exhaustion, how can I focus on and prioritize that? What am I going to do for the next hour, the next day, instead of thinking and trying to resolve all the things that are going to happen in a year, for example.
Yeah.
I think also, like, there was a time when I wasn't sure my company was going to be okay. We had a few major challenges, and I had to say, okay, so in the event that my company fails, like contemplating the worst case scenario, do I have my family? Am I healthy? Do I have the ability to start over? And the answer was yes. And so once I was able to be okay with the worst case scenario, that gave me the energy to stop focusing on that and just, again, one step at a time. Entrepreneurs maybe have a larger risk tolerance or appetite for change. So, but that doesn't mean that everybody on our team doesn't have a role to play. And so it is, again, about that dialogue to say, okay, you need more structure in your role. You need more, this is what you're telling me as an employee. So let's put that in place. Let's help to say, this is what we're doing this week. This is what we're doing next week. Where others, you can say, here's the outcome, see you in 45 days, and they've got it done. I think everyone's a little bit different and needs maybe a different amount of structure or support throughout the journey. The last thing I would say too is I've had some big conversations over the last 6 months with my leadership team, as we're having these discussions around risk tolerance and what does everybody need to feel safe. And I just say, okay, guys, like, I need you to keep leaping with me. Okay. I need to, this is the journey. This is the leap of faith. And, and just really asking that of them. And then when you get that commitment again and that trust, we're going to do this together. It helps us to keep moving forward. So sometimes it's just that conversation. I know it's not certain. I need you to keep leaping with me. Mm-hmm. And that helps.
What are some strategies you've used to positively activate people where you've turned up the heat to move them into that action?
So one would be, having town halls and being able to continually talk about the vision and where we're going. I think it's important what you said about making sure people have the facts. And so that we can make good decisions together. I think sometimes it's just as simple as getting alignment on, yes, we're going to do this, and then set a deadline. So we launched Kids Uncomplicated Consulting, and we agreed, and then we put it out into the market. So we're doing this. So then we reverse engineer it to make sure, okay, what are all the tactics we need to get done so that we'll be successful with that launch? So sometimes it's just, getting alignment and then putting a deadline and then putting it out there.
Yeah.
Gotta do it.
That's like setting a deadline is a really like simple but powerful way to raise the heat. Like, we're not just going to talk about it. We're going to launch this in January. Heat's turned up. So now how do we activate it? So then the flip side is, what are some of the ways you've decreased the heat to help your team members avoid burnout?
I think resourcing differently and backfilling. So for example, our financial team was getting pretty burnt out with all the grants and all the applications and all these things. So we kind of focused on as a project versus operations. So we would bring our leadership team together for a day or even a week in one case if we had lots of problems to solve. And we would whiteboard everything. And then we would work together to figure out so that we could divide and conquer. So if my chief operating officer is great at writing spreadsheets and doing business cases, then he would come in and support the financial team. Or, oh, well, these things are part of regular ops, but you know what? They're not a priority right now. We all agree, good. We're going to put that in Q2. So really people get overwhelmed. And so, okay, get it out of your head and onto a whiteboard and then start circling what the priorities are. And then we figure out based on the strengths of the team, how we're going to resource it. And in the event that we don't have someone inside our team, we'll even hire a mentor or a vendor, someone to help, a controller in this case, or a CFO kind of person to be able to help our financial team on a contract basis. So just making sure people don't feel alone and making sure that we solve the problems together and then resourcing it properly. And then taking days off.
Which is hard right now. I think that's something people struggle with, is because they're like, what do I do? Right. The work and life is so blurred, and, and for many of us don't feel like we can, and nor should we, right, be taking vacations.
I'll just say one thing. I think the first 6 months of COVID, we kind of were all on adrenaline. And I think the next 6 months are going to be about compassion. Like, that's what's going to get us through. So it's a bit of a change, right? You can't sprint forever. So we do need to be present to each other, take some breaks, and then we can get re-energized to keep moving.
What would you tell yourself when you first started?
Put your seatbelt on. No, I think that's the entrepreneurial journey, right? So it's not always about the outcomes. And yes, we're driving for those things, but there's a huge, pain is a precursor to growth. We're often, this is terrible. We're sitting in shitty diapers before we learn to potty train, if you will, so like somehow we have to, sometimes you got to be there before you can get there. And so it's just the journey. Like entrepreneurs are continue to push our society or pull them forward. So you're up for a ride. Like but if you really believe that this is what you're supposed to do, then you should do it, because that's how you're going to learn and make the impact and live your passions and live your best life. So that's what I would say. Go for it.
Robyn, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, being so vulnerable, and sharing your story. I know that people are going to be changed because of what you shared. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting this conversation, and it's my pleasure. It's my privilege to share my journey. So thank you.